Alright, I've got a tool here for cocking the shutter, so I'll cock the shutter. Set my speed to an 1/8 and check what sort of result I get. I would say that that was running a little bit fast. Let's try it on a 15. Yeah, definitely. So it's running a little bit fast, which means I have to move my speed cam in for greater engagement with the main drive cam. The retard gear train needs to be swung over, so for greater engagement with the cam to slow the shutter down. So back in the jig, and I'll see if I can get that apart. Where are we? Out there somewhere. Okay. I don't think I can get to that screw there. No, I can't. Okay, so I've got to take this off so I can get to the settings screw. Just remove that. Loosen this screw. Move the retard gear train in for greater engagement. It's pretty much right up hard against the inside, so there's no more adjustment to be had there, which may mean that this pin has been bent, or needs to be bent the other way in order to give me the speeds I'm looking for. That's all in position. Get that plate in place. Put its retaining clip in place. And see what I get. I'll cock it. Actually, I think it is cocked. Set this to an 1/8. Yeah, if anything, that was slightly slow that time. That's good. It means that we're working within our normal range. I'll try it on a 15. They're pretty close. I'm going to go away and test this on my shutter speed tester and see if I'm getting reliable speeds. It certainly doesn't sound 100 miles away from where I'd expect it to be. Well, let's check the self-timer and see if that's working. I'll cock the shutter. Let's set it here in the jig. It's set for a second. Set the self-timer. Where's my release lever? Oh, it's over here. Let's get this thing seated. Self-timer is running down. Sounds nice and smooth. Here's the shutter. I'll check my times on my shutter speed tester, and depending on what I find out, I'll move on to the next stage. Okay, I'm happy with the performance. I've made a couple of adjustments backwards and forwards, and I've got I think the speeds are about as good as I'm probably likely to get them to be. So this part of the shutter repair is done, and I'll need to turn my attention to cleaning up the front rings and getting the shutter mounted back on there. So I'm going to have a look at this now. Now I can see that there's a fair bit of dirt and grease and so forth in there, old oils and things. So I'll certainly want to clean that up. And the front ring here is click stopped. That all feels quite stiff. So I'll remove this. This screw at the top here has got a little dot of red paint on it. That's to help you align your lens correctly. Remove these 3 screws. These screws will all be chromed brass, satin chromed brass. Quite delicate, easily damaged. Got to be careful with these things. There's our plate. This ring lifts off. These components come apart, and these are quite dirty. And there's the little ball. The little ball there is a detent for our shutter speeds. That's held under that clip, and that, I believe, is riveted in place. That can't be removed. So that's good. It means I can't lose it cleaning things, which is always a bonus. So I'm going to clean these components up. As before, I'm just using some naphtha. Now these components have been lubricated previously, probably with graphite grease, and that's fine. I mean, a little bit of graphite grease in the right place makes a marvellous lubricant. Some people are just a bit prone to overdo things, that's all. It's quite marked, the chrome finish at the back here, but it doesn't appear to be particularly rough at all. It's probably some sort of corrosion marks, I would think. The serrated edge here is often quite grubby with finger grease and so forth. Sometimes with corrosion, if people have had, particularly if the camera's been to the beach and people have got salty hands, you know, just turning something like that, they'll leave salt behind, and that salt will create corrosion problems. It's not at all uncommon to find cameras with corrosion on the control knobs just because somebody with wet hands was handling the camera. That's of course a particular problem when salt water's involved. These tabs are the spring for the bayonet catch. They hold the lens in firmly. You can see that we take the lens and pop the mount in place. It should go around there, and you'll see that the catch here, how that latches in position in the slot here. That fits on that lens very smoothly. No hint of roughness. Yeah, it's just a lump of crud on there, sort of looked orangey coloured, and I wasn't sure whether it was the chrome had gone back down right to the copper coating underneath or not, but that was alright. Now I'll just give that a brush out down in there because there's a few bit of dust in there. That seems fine now. So I've got these components. Let's look at this chrome ring. The surface has got marks on it. It's like staining. Quite unusual. I'll see if I can get that to rub off. This is highly polished chrome, of course. It should look pretty good. I mean, that's usually polished chrome surfaces are usually very, very durable and resistant to corrosion. Yeah, there was just something on the surface. It was like a deposit on the surface. It seems to have cleaned away now. Sort of suggests perhaps something greasy had been on there, and the volatiles have gone and left the rubbish behind. Where does this fit? Somewhere like that. Yes, it must do. That's better. Right, well, there's a ring that goes in here first, this black baffle plate that goes on the front. We can put that in there. I'll just wipe that down. That keeps all the dust and so forth out of the front of the shutter. And it just sits in there. There's a little pin that positions that. Goes there. Check that that plate is centered in there. It's not. That's better, that everything sits down correctly. And our detent and everything happens on the outside, doesn't it? So that's easy to deal with. Let's put these 4 screws into place. When you're doing these screws, put the 4 in place, do them up very lightly. Don't do them up tight until you've checked everything's correct, because that, particularly that black cover plate on the front, that can slip out of position, and you don't want to damage anything by pulling things up tight against it if it's out of position. So those 4 screws are in place. I'm just checking that that piece is centered up. It all looks good. I can do up those 4 screws now. So we've got our shutter in the lens mount now. Our pin for the rangefinder coupling can go in pretty much last of all. I don't know if this will sit in my mount at all at this stage. We're sort of round the wrong way really with this shutter. Oh, it sits on the top, that's good enough. Just so it doesn't conflict with anything. So what do we got here? This has got the detents on it for the shutter speed, so it must sit there like that. And there's the coupling for the shutter speed ring there. So that'll go like that. This piece, does that go on first? No, it definitely goes on second. That goes on like that. This has got a little notch in it where it couples over that post there too. So that'll go on like that. And then this retainer plate goes in the middle. And our red alignment mark is almost certainly right at the top, because traditionally that's where you'd expect to find it. Right, well those parts all look good, so I will apply a little bit of lubricant in the appropriate places and put that lot together. Right, so I'm going to take some molybdenum paste here. And these little teeth here, that's where the detent ball for the shutter speed settings runs. So I'm just giving it a wee wipe with molybdenum paste, and I'll put some right on the ball itself just for good measure. Just give that a smear around the inside surface so that it'll run nice and smooth. Make sure that's coupled with our shutter speed setting. It is. This can go in place, and again that's coupled in the same spot. And the retainer plate, that had been lubricated with graphite grease previously. I'm just going to wipe that with some molybdenum paste because I've got it. The red dot went uppermost, I believe. And it's got its 3 retainer screws, with the red painted one being at the top. I'll run these screws up lightly and make sure that the mechanism all moves smoothly before I tighten them up. Oh, that's good, yeah. That's moving very nicely, so I can nip those 3 screws up. And that's the shutter mounted in its front plate. The detent for the shutter speeds, that's moving smoothly, nice and snappy in its action. That's all good. Let's cock that shutter. Let's set the self timer. Set our shutter speed to, let's make it a quarter. See what we get. Self timer's running down nicely. And there's our shutter. So that's all good. Basically that shutter's good. The pin for the lens rangefinder coupling, that can go in. I'm going to give that actually moves quite smoothly. It's fairly polished chrome, so I'm not surprised by that. I'm just wiping that with my toothpick from the lithium, the molybdenum, and of course this was held in place with that tiny spring. How tiny is that tiny spring? That tiny spring is very flaming tiny, and that was sort of screwed onto the back of that shaft. So I'll do as I did to take it apart. I'll use that, is it gone? Oh, here it is. I'll use this. This is a pin vise. Tighten that up on the front of that pin, and then I can hold that spring from behind. I can probably rotate the spring vise in. I can. That appears to be doing the job nicely. Let's have a look and see where we are. Basically, this just needs to make sure that this pin can never pull too far forward, can never fall out. I'm looking to see where this is relative to that thread, because it was screwed in a bit more than that. So I'll do it up a bit more. It has to have sufficient range of motion that it will track the lens right to the close focus position. And it'll follow a cam down here in that slot. I'll mount the lens and see how we get on. Put that in the right spot. No, I think I've got my red spot in the wrong place there. I'll have to rotate my retainer plate, I think. Let's have a look at this. Why is that? Is that pin not where I expected it to be? Well, I can't have been holding my mouth right. No, there's no problem there. So I'm just checking this. I've got the lens mounted on there. There's our rangefinder coupling pin coming out the back. And as I rotate the focus scale ring here from one extreme to the other, at the close focus end of the scale, this pin can travel all the way forward. I can feel the resistance against the cam, and as I move it to the infinity end of the scale, that can move right through its range. So that little retainer spring is, and there's certainly no problem where it is at the moment. That's not causing any grief at all. That's exactly right. So that shutter is good. And I did have my red dot in the right place too, so that was all good. So it's not as easy to fit things to as some other cameras, but it certainly works. Right, carry on. I want to deal with cleaning up that lens next, I think. While I was inspecting the front part of the camera here, this little piece of metal fell out. And you can see it's a sort of a vaguely domed piece of metal. On the inside, you can see there's quite an obvious marking there where something's been forced into it or screwed into it. And of course it's got nothing to do with the shutter or the control parts from the front of the shutter. What it actually turns out to be is it's the centre from the tripod socket, and on the inside of the body that little piece would have been crimped firmly in there. And I can show you on another camera, this is a Vitessa of mine, you can see that piece is crimped firmly in the tripod socket at that point. So somebody at some stage has screwed a tripod so deeply into the camera that they have forced this cover plate out of the end of the tripod socket on the camera, and as a result damaged it. So I would say that I'm going to have fun getting this back in position and crimping that tripod socket back over so that it stays there. It's going to be fun working down inside that well in the body to get that in place. What an odd thing. So, what effect would that have had? Well, a stray piece of metal like that rattling around loose inside the camera would probably have all sorts of awful effects. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that wasn't jamming the mechanism from time to time. Yeah, that's going to be fun to spring into place because of the way it's shaped, it would have been easier to push out than it is to push back in, because the yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm not looking forward to that. It's a bit like trying to push a frost plug out of a motor or something. That's going to be entertaining. Alright, I'll let you now get on with that. Anyway, meantime, the shutter itself, of course, was just about complete, ready to go on the front of the camera. And the last thing I didn't show us putting anything on was this little coupling. The coupling here that will cock the shutter when it's mounted on the front of the camera. So that the last little piece there, that's what that was. The shutter there at least is good to go. The front of the camera here is good to go. If I can get that piece in place. Well, it's good to be stripped down and clean, but this thing here, yeah, this is going to be entertaining. I'm going to have fun getting that in there. Yeah, that's not a good thing to find at all. So I can only imagine that's been done on a tripod. I'm sure that the case screw for the case is too short to actually tighten up that far and damage that. It's got to have been done on a tripod. What an odd thing to find. Well, as you can see, I've got that disc back in place. It was a fairly complex thing to achieve. That little disc is dome shaped. I had to increase the depth of the dome, if you like, in order to shrink the diameter of it, which I did by basically forcing it into a hole with a punch, and that had the effect of shrinking the outside diameter of the disc so that I was able to get it to drop into the crimped recess here. Then I was able to punch down on the top of the disc, and that effectively flattened the dome, effectively increased the diameter of the disc so that it sat in there fairly well, but it still wasn't tight. So the crimping action of this outer piece here, I had to crimp that edge over, and I was able to find a very small socket in my socket set, 7mm I think, which had a nicely rounded countersunk end in the end of it, and I was able to punch down on that, rotating as I went, and it crimped that outside edge down over the disc. So the disc is now firmly in place, probably much the same as it would have been when it was originally there. And I will tell the owner of the camera that if they have got some old tripod that they've been using this thing on, to throw the bloody thing away and get a decent tripod with a suitably short screw that they're not going to wind up and through the base of the camera. Anyway, back to the job at hand. I wasn't expecting to find that.